Okay, so I'm going to show you guys today how I pollinate my flowers on my passion fruit vine. And first I'm going to show you how many flowers I got going on this crazy vine. You can see the house is the background, that my vine is very big. It's got lots of flowers today. A lot of these flowers left over from yesterday and the day before. There were a few days where I missed because I had so much going on that I wasn't able to get out here and to pollinate. So there's a lot of flowers on here, some that are not going to take because they didn't get pollinated. You can see, I think you can see that there's bees. There's quite a few bees in here. There's a bee there. There's more bees here. Unfortunately, the honeybees are not big enough to pollinate the flowers. What the honeybees do, maybe I can find one here real quick that's on a flower. See, what they do is they get down in the bottom of the flower there, and there's a nectar that draws them in. And what they're supposed to do is as they go around the bottom of the flower, they rub their back on these things, and these things have the pollen on them, as you can see there. And then as they move around the flower, they're supposed to touch this part and rub the pollen on, and that pollinates the flower, so that this little round part in here, down in the middle there, turns into a fruit. But the honeybees just aren't big enough to reach all that, and so rarely do the honeybees pollinate the flowers. Look at all these flowers. There's also a few wasps in here. They don't pollinate anything. There's a bee down there getting his nectar, but no pollen. So anyway, the bees, they just don't pollinate the flowers. They like the flowers, but they don't pollinate the flowers. So I have to pollinate the flowers myself, which is what I'm going to show you guys today. Oh, look at that guy. Now, he may, because he's climbing all around in there, but seriously, I doubt it. Here's one that obviously didn't take, fallen off. There's quite a few of those, because I just can't get to them all. There's so many flowers here. Look at that wasp, he's a big boy. So anyway, we're going to get to it and I'll show you what I do. Okay, so generally what I do is I take this little pad here that's covered in pollen and I rub it on the end of the stamen here. Try to get as much on there as I can. And there's 3 of those on each one of these. There's 5 pads and 3 of these. Try to get as, like I said, I try to get as much on there as I can. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I've done all 3 now, all the way around this flower, and there's still 2 pads left. And what I used to do is I used to take the pad and rub the pollen off on my finger and put it on the end. And as you can see, it gets quite a bit of pollen on there, so it does just as well. It's just a much more difficult technique. And I used to think that would damage the flower if I pulled off the pads, but I don't believe I can prove that. So generally, well, there, that one came off anyways. So generally I don't do it this way just because it's more time consuming, trying to be more perfect about it. But that's what I used to do. Okay, so I've done a few. Oh, look at Mr. B there. Got quite a bit of pollen on my fingers. I wanted to show you another thing that I try to do here. When I wipe this pollen on here, as you can see, there's kind of like a crack down the middle, like a split, and I try my best to get the pollen in there because the crack runs all the way around to this other side. I kind of feel like, I don't have proof of it, but I kind of feel like that definitely helps get the flower pollinated. Honestly, I believe that when you do these, you only get about 20% maybe of these things to actually pollinate. It might be a little higher than that, but sometimes it's less. They just don't seem to want to pollinate. And I can't really say as to why that happens. And you can see here I try to get as much on there as I can, and I try to put it in that split all over the end of this thing here. You might be thinking to yourself, why does this guy put his hands in there with all of these bees? But the bees, I have discovered, they don't really want to sting you. And I think the bees understand that if they do, they're gonna die. Because they always try to shy away from stinging you, or they get away from the flower as soon as they can. So I don't worry too much about the bees stinging me. It's just something I've noticed over time. Go ahead and get this one done here. Now there are quite a few wasps that come in here. My feeling about wasps is I think they come in here because they're looking for little insects that they can take back to put in the nest with their babies. And so I believe that's why they're in here. But I've also learned something about the wasps. And I think, I can't prove it, but I believe with the wasps, it's kind of the same thing. They don't want to sting you. Wasps tend to be, from what I can tell, they would rather fight in a group. And so if they're just single, they tend to not be so aggressive like they would if you approach their nest. When you approach their nest, several of them attack at once. But out here, they seem to not really care too much about you being there, and they try to avoid you. I don't know if I got enough on there. I'm gonna hope I did. So I'm gonna get some of these ones that I can't get the camera next to, and I'll be back with you in a couple minutes. So I'm thinking to myself while I'm doing this, with all these bees out here today, where do these bees live? I would surely love to try some of their honey, made from this passion pollen. It must be good. I don't know. There's another one here. There's so many flowers today. This could potentially take hours. But there are some flowers here. I'll show you one or two in a minute, that get deformed. And they don't, the pollen, I don't know how else to say it. It looks like it doesn't dry out and become fluffy. See if I can find one. I think I found one right here. This camera gets hung up in the vine. It's hard for me to move. Oh, there's a bee there. Sorry, Mr. Bee. So as you can see, it's very small, and these pads, just the pollen doesn't get puffy, so it's useless to try. But you know, that's how it goes. Not all of them work. Not all of them have the right amount of each part either. Every once in a while you get a deformed one. Having trouble getting this one to slide. There we go. And so every once in a while you run into some deformed ones, and I often wonder if they do make a fruit with the seeds from that fruit make more deformed ones, but I don't know. So it's quite warm out here today. I'd say it's pretty close to 90 degrees. Yesterday at this time, the feels like temperature was 100 degrees, and it surely feels the same today. So I'm about getting tired of this. Been out here for a while. I've done 2 sides of the plant, so I've done quite a few. As you can see, got a lot of pollen on my hands, on my fingers. This pollen is strange. It's very powdery, but at the same time it's also very sticky. And if I try to rub my fingers together, it's almost like there's glue on the ends of them. It's a strange sensation. So the other thing I wanted to show you guys is how these little pads are on here by like a little string. They just rotate in the wind. It's interesting how it's made. It's kind of tough, but they come off pretty easy. Just wipe the pollen off, shove it all over the end, move on to the next one. So if I have enough battery here, I want to show you guys. Oh, look at those bees. Busy bees. I'm going to show you guys some of the fruit that has taken. There's one in there. I just happen to know it's there because sometimes it's hard to see. It's so camouflaged in there. And I don't know where they all are. I know there's one over here somewhere. There he is. A little bit smaller of one. Hasn't quite grown into a good enough size yet. Look at the size of that wasp. He's a big boy. And I know there's more, but this vine grows over itself so quickly that they get hidden really quick. I think I saw one in here somewhere just a bit ago, so I can find it before my battery runs out. Well, I don't see it right now. Oh, there it is. There's quite a few of them in here. They're just hard to find. But lots and lots of bees today. Flying around everywhere. And I think because of the heat, I'm going to be done. So that's how I pollinate my passion fruit plant. And that's about the size of the whole doggone thing.